So anyways, eventually I was hired. I talked him into it, and that was that. But let me talk a little bit about the skills that I use at different projects around the times. When I went into graduate school, since I already had a computer programming degree, it made my life a lot easier. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, that was something that was a fortunate thing for me to pick up in undergrad. I was probably like a lot of you in undergrad. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't really care at the time what I wanted to do, but I had a computer science degree. So when I went into graduate school, it opened me up to focus on a lot of different areas and learn a lot of different new things. I took several audio recording and audio editing courses, photography courses, videography. I continued to develop my web skills, and working on these projects that I was just showing you, I also learned a lot about project management, which has become one of my most important skills. But also to show you, like, when I first arrived at the Times, one of the reasons I was hired is because they needed somebody who had these skills who could do it relatively quickly. Like, they had people who could edit audio and things like that, but it might take them 2 days or something like that. And what they needed was somebody who could call Lebanon or call Israel in the morning, speak with Sabrina Tavernise or Stephen Erlanger, speak with these people who are in war zones and doing these like incredibly difficult reporting duties, record them, ask them questions in a way that they're going to deliver their narrative to you so that you can cut yourself out of the audio, work with Lisa Iaboni, who's a photo producer at the New York Times, and get a slideshow turned around within, I think, 6 or 8 hours at the time. And at the time, that was great. We were really excited. We were turning around audio slideshows inside the same day. People were getting these looks at Israel and Lebanon and the war, and it was really interesting. And so that was just like one of my skills. And I wasn't the best, and since we've hired people who are much, much better than me. But I use that as an example of like, you don't need to develop a skill to the point where you could go maybe work at NPR. But if you say, hey, look, I can program computers, or hey, look, I shoot video really well, or I'm a photographer, but I can also edit audio, or I can also shoot video, or I can also do this, then it adds a whole new dimension to their hiring process. They say, well, I'm going to hire you to edit photos, but we really could use somebody to chop up this audio. And then you do that, and you show them, look, I can do that, I can turn that around quickly, and all of a sudden, you get another bone tossed your way, and they're like, okay, well, why don't you go out and cover this? And then all of a sudden, you're pushing and pushing, and you're developing yourself in your career. Photography, I've shot panoramas for the New York Times. I went to the political conventions and shot them. It's incredibly stressful, incredibly exciting. I've continued to develop my web abilities. I learned Ruby on Rails, more with databases, doing those kinds of things. But like I said, project management is one of the most important things I do nowadays. You can be a producer, and if your project management skills are at 0, it will quickly show up in your work. It will quickly show up with how you manage a team, and you won't be able to hit your deadline. And if you guys are journalism students, you should know that the deadline in the end is the only thing that matters. So if you're not hitting your deadlines, again, you're not going to be able to cut it. The thing that goes along with being a project manager, and the thing that I kind of want to, while I have said that you shouldn't aim to be the best at everything. You're not going to be the best web developer, the best photographer, the best videographer, the best infographics artist. Just put that out of your head, because it's not going to happen. I go to the New York Times. I'm surrounded by people like Todd Heisler and Damon Winters shooting photos. I got Jigger Mehta and some other people on video. You know, I got the Steve Duenas and the graphics team down in graphics. Like, these are all people who have very specialized skills, who can do that one thing way better than I can do it. The difference is, because I've taken classes in these different things and worked there over the past couple years, I at least understand what it takes them to do these things. I can understand the amount of time. I can understand if I ask them, you know, we'd like to work on a graphic or a project for this, or I need video shot for that. I know when they say, well, that's going to take me 5 days, to be like, actually, can you do it in 3 days? And then they're going to say, I can do it in 4 days. And then we say, okay, right? Like, I know how to work with them on their terms so that I'm not necessarily dictating to them their job, but they know that I understand what their job is. And it's much more of a helpful thing. It's more like, look, I know it's going to take you 3 days to get this done. So you should get started now. Here's what you need. I already have the person who's cut the audio for you. Those kinds of things. Like, you don't have to be intimately familiar with every aspect of every part of multimedia. But if you are looking to be a producer, you should be familiar enough with the idea of what the different parts entail and how to work with those people to bring a project together. Okay, so at the Times, I'm on the multimedia team. Here is the multimedia team. Our editor is Andrew Devagal. He's a wonderful guy. I don't only say that because he's here, but very creative and breeds creativity and enthusiasm, which is something I hope multimedia editors around the web are doing. Tom Jackson, John Wong, and Zach Wise are the other three of us who do a lot of Flash development and interactive development, design type things. Amy O'Leary, Sarah Kramer, Nancy Donaldson, and Monica Evanchek are much more of our linear and audio storytellers. Amy is from NPR, Sarah is from StoryCorps, Nancy is from the Washington Post. So they've really worked on developing their storytelling abilities, and they're excellent at it, and they're just really incredible. It's a really incredible team to work with. So that's the team I work with at the time, but I also work across a lot of other teams, as I was alluding to, and I'll start speaking to some of those things. But these are really the 5 major things I focus on when I am developing interactives or working on any projects for the New York Times. Usability, context, transparency, innovation, and user-generated content. These things, a lot of them speak for themselves, but a lot of them are a little more nuanced, and some of them might go in other directions. A couple of things that I think are really important. Most of you probably know usability, or you probably had it hit over your head, at least that you should focus on that some. Context is something that you can really stretch and leverage on the web. Transparency is really how I see the future of journalism going forward. The web is a transparent medium inherently, so it makes it so much easier for us to be transparent as journalists and try to gain the trust of our readers or our users simply by showing them that this is exactly how we do it. Objectivity is an interesting thing, and we could probably have a long conversation about objectivity, but transparency can really help you show at least where you're coming from and how you're trying to present information to people. Innovation, I've been quoted many times as saying I think it's, and probably because I'm in it right now, but one of the best times for journalism in history. I mean, it's such an exciting time. There's all these different ways to do it. There's all these unknowns about it. There's all these different people. I get to work with people every day who say, I've never even seen this. I never even thought about doing it that way. And that's exciting. And then they usually come back with an idea that's like, holy smokes, I didn't think about taking it to that direction because I'm not from their background or whatever. So it's a really exciting time. And then obviously user-generated content is a big thing right now. It's kind of a catchphrase, and a lot of organizations are struggling to do it. But what I'm more interested in is how do you leverage user-generated content? I know that a lot of people are willing to upload their photo of a puppy. I know a lot of people are willing to send me photos from this thing or that thing, or rant and rave on this comment thing. But how do I balance that with my journalistic endeavor and trying to inform people and encourage people based on user-generated content?